This is the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education regular meeting, April 23rd, 2013. Al, can we have a roll call?
Mary Jane Brady.
Present.
Terry Carney.
Present.
Al Pfeifhouse. Present. Eric Wagner.
Present.
Leanne Charlotte.
Present.
Mark Berry.
Present.
Susan Ryder.
Present.
We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First, we have communications and questions from visitors. Do we have any visitors? If you could step up to the podium and if you could give us your name and address.
Please account.
Hi. Wait, can you hear me? Okay. I'm Eiley Brady, and I live at 340 East Woodland, just saying.
I'm Emma Brady, and I live with her.
Happily.
I'm Francis Brady, and now they see what they say, don't act with kids. We are here tonight as property owners, residents since 1995, as homeowners since 2000. I'm here as a very proud father of two exceptional students of Lake Bluff schools. I may be a little bit prejudiced, and despite whatever you might have heard here recently to the contrary, they've received exemplary educations, and they're going to do fine at Lake Forest High School. We wanted to come, Eileen and Emma and I, and say thank you to the outgoing board members, to Eric, to Al, and to Terry, and you too. You know, for your hard work, your dedication, your selflessness, and your effort to always try and do what was right, even when it wasn't popular, and when it wasn't easy, certainly. So we just wanted to say thank you. And to you, Madam President, we wanted to say, welcome home.
Careful what you wish for, Frank.
You've been telling me for 30 years.
Thank you very much. I have to say that's actually one of the nicest visitor comments we've ever had.
Clearly.
Now back to dance class.
Thanks, guys. Any other comments or questions?
You could top that, right?
Really?
All right, we will move on to discussion.
Well, the first item, as you see on your agendas, is the 2013-14 calendar revision. And I bring that to you because in discussions with our law firm and other districts, even though the law says that we have to have a full day of school on the first and last day of school, when you get into it, you can see that you need to be in school a minimum of 5 hours, which is very similar to our early release days that we have this year. So in discussions with the calendar team, we took the calendar that you've already approved and revised the first and last day of school to be early release days. And by doing that, it allows the teachers a little bit of time to talk amongst each other, make sure the kids are situated for the school year, talk to other teachers. It allows the kids to go home and kind of unwind from the first day of school. And then on the last day of school, it allows our teachers to start their checkout process, which is somewhat lengthy, an hour earlier. So that's why we bring the revision to you that we will be sending to the state. Any questions?
Any discussion on that? Nope. Okay. So we will move on to the LBMS 6th, 7th, and 8th grade trips for 2013-14.
And this particular item, I think, Nate, if you could come up to the speaker, because there may be some different questions. I want to remind all of you that in following with the board policy, we will be approving any field trips that are either out of state or overnights with the board in alignment with our board policy. So we will be starting that now, and we're already getting dates on our calendar so that they're clear and accurate next year. But with that, we've got our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade trips up for review. Nate, I want to thank you for great paperwork for the board members, but I thought we could start with the 6th grade trip and talk and see if there's questions about that, and then move to the 7th and then the 8th. So the 6th grade trip, just tell us briefly, where do they go?
Springfield,
Okay.
that's a 2-day, 1-night trip.
And that is in alignment with our curriculum on government.
Right.
And the costs are in your board packet. In general, how many students participate, just in general, in that trip?
For that trip, it's the majority of 6th grade students for this upcoming, I'm going from memory because I don't have it in front of me, I think it's about 105 is what we expect. There are always a few that are not able to go because of a conflict, one or another. So I expect that we might have maybe as many as 5 not able to go, but that's just based on past practice.
And Nate, does that usually occur in May? Has
It
it
does,
been?
the Springfield trip does, yes.
And I want to remind everybody, because we're going to skip to the 8th grade trip and then come back to the 7th, that the weather did not bode well for us with the Washington DC trip this past fall. And if you remember, we had to cancel it due to, what was going, weather, Hurricane Sandy.
Hurricane Sandy, yeah.
And move it, and when we moved it, it had to be scheduled the weekend of the Springfield trip. So in May, there will be a couple days where Nate is in Washington DC with the 8th graders, and I will be in Springfield with the staff with the 6th graders.
That's right, we depart for
So-
Springfield, we depart for DC on May 16th, and the 6th graders will depart on May 17th. So we'll leave the 7th graders alone in the building that last day.
That's a scary.
Well, by alone, I mean without any, staff will be there, sir.
So,
Better or scarier?
let's first go back to the 6th grade trip. Do you have any questions at all on that?
I have a question, and I'll ask the same one when we talk about the 8th grade trip. How many students, roughly, in your experience, are not able to participate due to the cost?
It's difficult to know if it's a cost issue frequently. We work closely with all the families to make sure that it's not an issue of money that's preventing them from being able to go. Ideally, we want all the kids to go. Everyone should be able to go, and we have means by which we can support those families financially. So I can't really answer that question, to be honest. Most of those who choose not to go, it's because of a conflict with sports or dance or travel of their own.
For this trip?
I would say that's true of both the 6th grade trip as well as the 7th grade trip, and an 8th grade trip for all of them, if it's usually a scheduling conflict.
So, let's talk about the 8th grade trip a little bit. And the 8th grade trip, they go to Washington DC.
Right.
And that's in alignment with curriculum, again, on government and the Constitution and all that. Talk a little bit about the number of students that you've been seeing over the past couple of years.
This most recent year is the lowest number that we've seen. I think that's in part because of the change from the November date to the May date. I'm not sure what else to attribute it to. We have about 72 students that are going this year. In the past, we're more accustomed to 90 to 95 kids. And that's been true of at least the last 5 years that I've been doing it.
Students signed up for November that backed out when you had.
There were some, yes, there were some. There were also some that weren't signed up in November and were excited to be able to join the trip because their conflict that prevented them in November.
So the numbers being lower were not necessarily because of the delay.
There were a few. I think we lost more than we gained.
Yeah, okay.
Just as a point, the Dance Academy Lake Forest dance recitals that weekend, and I know many of our girls had to drop out
Yeah.
because of that, my daughter among them, so that was part of it for some of the girls.
Right.
I have a general question that kind of covers both and follows up on Leanne's. How do we identify those families who might need help with the financing of this trip?
I had a related question, and I'll just add to it and say, if I'm a family member who looks at this cost and says, oh my goodness, and I don't even bother to ask, how might we reach out to them, or do we?
So during the parent informational meetings and for both trips, we start those well in advance. We talk to all of the families, invite all of the families to attend, and that's at the same time that we're sending out the information that's going to go home and be delivered by mail. But we talk about when the trip is. For the DC trip in particular, we have a payment schedule, and I believe there's 3 payment deadlines leading up to the trip in order to break up the cost. Some families choose to pay for it all up front. Some choose to take advantage of that payment plan. But it's made clear during those informational meetings that we want all of our students to be able to attend who want to go. And if there's financial constraints that are causing difficulty or making a challenge for parents, I encourage them to call me. And we've worked out a number of things. There's some scholarship opportunities. We've set those up with families. The Alliance for Excellence has always been very gracious in helping with the scholarship fund. And then for some families, we're able to set up a longer payment plan, either for a portion or all of the trip.
Did that answer your question, Mark? I'm sorry, I kind of interjected. I guess we don't affirmatively try to identify anybody. We give the information to everybody and wait for them to, yeah.
Well,
come
and
to us.
we invite them to contact us, contact me directly after the meeting or by phone.
So it remains confidential.
Confidential, yeah.
And those communications are via parent meetings, and how else do they get that information? Is it?
Kids.
The kids can bring it home. Do we email, or I'm just trying to?
The weekly updates from the teachers.
Right. So the actual packet that contains all of the information comes from Hemisphere Educational Travel. That's the company that helps us with both the 6th grade trip to Springfield and the 8th grade trip to DC. That's mailed directly home, but we start communicating about the trip and letting parents know to expect that packet in advance of it being mailed.
Any other questions on the 6th or 8th grade trips?
I guess as to the timing, this year is going to be an exception, but when they go to DC, are they simultaneously learning about federal government in their curriculum? I understand that can't be the case here because of the delay, but.
Right.
does
Well,
it
we
tie
made
into
a bit of some adjustments within the 8th grade social studies curriculum to keep some of what we're going to be covering in DC current to the trip. But ordinarily, yeah, the Constitution is more well aligned. The Constitution unit is more well aligned with the trip in the fall. I'm not sure I'm answering your question.
No, that was the question. And similarly, for the Springfield trip, presumably we're learning about either
More
Lincoln
Illinois.
or Illinois
Right. Illinois
government. But I guess I'm sort of surprised that that's all the way in May for the curriculum in 6th grade. But it's probably neither here nor there. I know scheduling these is very, very difficult, so we can't align everything perfectly. But what you'd like to see is that direct link back to the curriculum, and perhaps even to the LA curriculum, and some of that tie-in that my daughter in 7th grade is telling me a lot about. We're doing lots of things cross-functionally these days, so.
I know in 8th grade, my 8th grader is, in his social studies class, they're doing the Civil War right now. And you guys go to Arlington, right?
Mm-hmm.
Robert E. Lee's
Yeah.
former home, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And we have
that
students actually participate in a wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Yeah.
Nate, because it's a good question to ask, what happens to the students that stay behind?
So for DC, we try our best to develop a kind of parallel experience for those kids that stay behind, both for that Thursday and Friday that the students who are in DC are gone. Now, part of the trip in DC is the Holocaust Museum there. For the students that are here, there is a local field trip to the Holocaust Museum in Skokie that they participate in. And there's some discussion that occurs both before and after that trip, and again, very common with what we're doing with some of the kids in DC. And then they also do some more local. We talk about. They don't go to we do Vietnam Memorial in DC. They visit the Vietnam Memorial here in the center of town and talk about the significance of that. So we try and have as much of a parallel opportunity for those kids as possible.
Any other 6th or 8th grade questions? Okay, let's move on to 7th grade. Talk a little bit about the 7th grade trip and how that aligns to curriculum.
So the 7th grade trip is, we call it the Lake Bluff Outdoor Ed Trip. There's 2 halves to the trip. It's a 3-day trip, but half of the 7th grade students participate in the Lake Bluff Ed portion, while the other half participate in the outdoor ed portion. Halfway through the 2nd day, those 2 groups switch. So by the end of the 3 days, everyone will have done all of the activities. So I'll start by talking about the Lake Bluff Ed trip, which is really more of a historic tour sort of Lake Bluff. It's a geocaching activity, and if you're not familiar with geocaching, students are going to be using handheld GPS devices and are going to be actually navigating to waypoints. And so they're going to be responsible for getting themselves to a specific location within Lake Bluff. All of the students have 3 common locations that they would go to, and then the rest are unique to that group that gets there. And so there's something like 65 total waypoints that students will be visiting throughout Lake Bluff. When they arrive at that waypoint, they'll find a pencil case, and we label this pencil case as part of that project for that day. Inside of that pencil case, there's an artifact of some kind or another, identifying what they're there to see, information about where they might turn to on their iPod to listen to Kathy O'Hara, who recorded a lot of the information for us, talking about the significance of the site that they're looking at. They have a unique stamp that they put in their passport, and they're able to prove that they've been to this waypoint. And of course, their job as they're traveling throughout is preparing a presentation which they'll share with the group when they get back to school, because not all groups will have had the opportunity to go to all the waypoints. As I mentioned, they have 3 that are common and significant, and then others that each group will report to the greater group about. So that's the Lake Bluff Ed in a nutshell. The outdoor ed portion I would describe as more of an emotional wellness, trust building, team building kind of activity. When we get up to East Troy, Wisconsin, Camp Edwards is where the students will stay. There's a number of team building activities that we do. Group initiatives is one of those where the group is working together. By the way, the activity groups that the kids are divided into are very much random. We work to assign kids to groups that they might not otherwise work with, and people they might not otherwise have the opportunity to interact with. We do give them some input into their cabin assignments, but we deliberately try and mix up the activity groups. And so it creates an interesting opportunity for those kids to problem solve and work together. In a group initiatives activity, they may be trying to figure out how to get their entire group to balance this large balance beam. They've got to work together to do that and get everyone on the balance beam, balancing this fulcrum, and perhaps singing a few verses of Row, Row, Row Your Boat to accomplish that. But you know, there's a process to how they can accomplish that task. Everyone has a different idea, and it's very interesting to see how we can work through with kids some consensus and get the group moving all in the same direction. All of the group initiative activities are really about the group coming together, whereas we might do a low ropes course where it's about the entire group supporting the individual. Kids sometimes stepping a little bit outside of their comfort zone to try something that they weren't exactly excited to try, perhaps walking across that tightrope. Now, mind you, it's only a few feet off the ground, but they've got their spotters, they've got their team members all around them, helping them and encouraging them along the way. It happens right at the beginning of the year for 7th grade, so it's a nice opportunity for our 7th grade teachers to get to know the students very quickly and in a somewhat different capacity than their science teacher or their social studies teacher. It's a unique, certainly a unique experience as it compares to the 6th grade trip to Springfield, which might be a more traditional trip, as is the 8th grade trip. But that's the short version.
So in summary, it aligns with learning your local community as well as working on the social emotional team building piece that is such a vital part of our
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely,
Bluff way.
yeah, the 7th grade trip is certainly more social, emotional, and emotional wellness aligned than you might say a specific curricular science or social studies or something of that nature.
Okay, questions on 7th grade trip?
Nate, is there a reason that we split the kids in half? Can the places that we go not accommodate all the kids at the same time?
That's the issue, yeah. Trying to fit them all in the cabins, also get them all fed. We do cook over the open fire. It's just a logistical challenge to have all the kids there at East Troy, Wisconsin at one time.
Okay. And is there a possibility that we could keep part of the trip and not the other part of the trip? I mean, is there a reason that we've put these two? They seem fairly disparate in their curricular values. Is there a reason they're put together the way they are? So for instance, the Lake Bluff portion of it doesn't really seem to be a social emotional wellness kind of a thing.
Right.
It seems to be a geography lesson or something of that sort.
Right, more local history, yeah. No, is the question, why wouldn't we be able to separate them over?
Right. The reason I'm asking is because if I've had one question, I've had a dozen about the kids being out 3 days for this, from parents.
Right.
3 days for this particular kind of activity, and I think people view maybe the parts of it differently and are wondering about the relative uses of the two parts of the trip.
Okay. You know, the challenge there is that the outdoor ed trip is done by our staff. So we've got most of the 7th grade teachers in East Troy working with those kids. We bring in also the fine arts teachers who help us on that. So if we were to have, I think that the challenge would be having staff to do the instruction for the half that can't come to East Troy, making it meaningful perhaps within the building, when the fact is they probably have subs there that day.
Or
Because the
looking
others
at a place that would kind of accommodate the whole class.
could be, right.
Could that not be a voluntary kind of trip, like a weekend trip, instead of something that's a requirement? You know, unless
The outdoor
someone has
ed
a
portion or the Lake
yeah,
Bluff ed
the
portion?
outdoor ed
I suppose the
portion.
answer would be yes for either, but which one are you asking?
Well, the outdoor, well, really both.
Okay.
I see perhaps more curricular value for the outdoor ed because of the social emotional wellness aspect of it. Local history isn't part of the curriculum. It's an interesting exercise, clearly, but it's perhaps something that could be accommodated in another context.
I think the one thing I would share with that, especially with the new science standards coming up, outdoor education is really reinventing itself and becoming of even more importance.
I get that.
For the outdoor ed part.
I wonder if we could have a more clear tie back to the curriculum, though. For example, when they come back, they could write about
Well,
something, you know.
maybe I didn't mention that there's a big piece to that trip that is a presentation that they're collecting data and information about as they're doing the Lake Bluff Ed portion. They do come back and present information to.
Oh, the Lake
to
Bluff Ed.
The Lake
Yeah.
Bluff Ed
I
portion.
was thinking about the curricular aspect of the outdoor ed, because I understand the importance of social and emotional wellness, and I don't want to relegate it to a weekend, because then you lose so many kids that the team building aspect would be team building with whom? Other people in my club my group who decided to go that weekend. I think we don't really want to do that, but I wondered if that tie back to the curriculum is really there, even for the outdoor ed. And then my thought on the Lake Bluff ed is it's always felt like filler. It hasn't really felt like something that they're really getting value out of.
I think what I would suggest is when we get to the point in the vote tonight, if this is something you want us to continue talking about, we can do that. There would be some urgency in getting it done within the next month or so, because we need to get dates on calendars and get dates booked. We probably have it booked already, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
I mean, I have
The one place.
kind of a general comment about them. These have been planned, and I'm happy to support that. That's, what you had planned for the year. But I think in general for our field trips, what I would like to see us look at a couple of things. One is, if it's a field trip that we're saying is an educational trip, meaning that the district has some responsibility to pay for it if kids can't, I think we have to be responsible about the cost. And two is, just in terms of curriculum, and I, don't have a background in curriculum, not specifically about these trips, but I think in general, at times people ask questions like, tell me how this,
The ski trip.
well, since you mentioned it,
Team building.
I would like us to do some looking at it, or if that's, curriculum folks looking at it ahead, so that we're not looking next year at it after it's already been, the materials have been sent out, the kids have made their payments, before that we look at, is this really in line with the curriculum? So.
It's always good to take a look at that. We started some preliminary discussions on that really today, and looking at field trips, what's valuable, protecting instructional time. So I think that's something we could easily start work on as an administrative team. I always worry about dates, because Most of these places, you work for years to finally get your date in. And when you lose it for good, and you gotta start at the bottom again. So, but certainly, it's something that we need to review field trips anyway, and how often kids are out, what grade levels go where, what happens to kids that don't go. When does a trip lose its meaning? When we have too many kids out that can't go? I do think this year, at least from what Nate's told me, the change in the date has made a huge difference with the Washington DC trip. But if we would continue for a second or a third year with those numbers, then we have to reevaluate all those kids not going. We have to look at the data, is really what we're saying.
Well, and I think there can be a tendency to go with a trip or a particular field trip because it's part of our tradition. And I think I'm saying, maybe we're all kind of questioning, look, our curriculum is stepping up. With Common Core, we're expecting teachers to be able to generate certain results. So it just seems like it might be a good time to step back and look at some of those and say, is this really good time for them to be out of the classroom? Because some of them, I'm sure are, and there may be a couple that are a little softer.
And maybe beyond that, not just reevaluating whether the field trips are good and we continue the tradition, but a refresh of that curriculum every so many years. And, having had 3 kids go through all 3 trips, it feels to me like a little refresh and relook at that curriculum. We might be at that point, just hearing my own children report back. Now, I don't know, I wouldn't know what to say for sure, but, I think all 3 concepts are good, but it might be time to look at that. And we probably already have people planning to do that, I don't know.
Al, maybe if I could, and I don't mean to, I have been on a lot of them. In fact, I think most of them. They have changed dramatically since I started going in 2000.
Okay.
Outdoor ed didn't exist as it does
know.
now. We were
Yeah.
camping back then. We were going somewhere entirely different. But,
Yeah.
but you're right. I mean, it's definitely something that we need to continually evaluate. And I think they're valuable experiences, but at the same time, I want to provide you with all the information you need to feel comfortable with.
Well, I think the concept of all 3 is good.
I think Joanne wanted to say something.
You gotta come, you have to come up there.
You gotta walk the talk.
That's right. I just want to caution us as we do get more involved with Common Core, raising the expectations, the rigor, et cetera, that kids are going to respond to that if they have the relationships with the teachers too. And so that often comes from these kind of events. So we need to reevaluate. We need to make sure they're connected. But there's a huge movement happening right now in the states that have adopted Common Core, saying that the emotional wellness piece is getting lost in it all. So we need to balance it, is all I want to caution us. We need to balance it. We do need to make sure that there is a direct connection to the curriculum, and we can certainly review all of these and I think provide you the information you need for when you're asked those questions. I think that's an important piece, and be specific about it with parents, et cetera. I just want to make sure we keep a balance, because matter of fact, there's a petition out right now across Illinois and many of the states about the fact that so many of these things are being dropped just because everybody's going, Common Core, pressure, rigor, et cetera. Kids won't perform unless the team building's there, unless the relationships are there, all of that. We might need to think of new ways to do that.
So,
But I just
Joanne,
wanna
are
caution
you
us.
suggesting that even though only one of our field trips is focused on the social-emotional team building, that maybe there really is
A lot
that social-emotional component of all 3 because
Absolutely.
of their
Even the
different
local,
setting, they're
the
getting
geocaching and
learning
they have
things.
to work as a team when they're going.
I was just
on
thinking
these-
about the relationship between students and teachers.
Right.
That changes a little
Absolutely.
bit when you're on a trip as opposed to daily classroom.
It's really interesting being a classroom teacher and spending the time in your classroom where your environment is prepared just the way you want it. You can compare that to sitting down with a group of kids who you're chaperoning at 8 o'clock at night to process all of those different experiences they had as they walk around DC, or all of those different things that happened throughout their beginning to lunch to end of the day on the outdoor ed trip, and how they changed their perceptions of what it was like to work with the people that were assigned to the group. It's a really unique an interesting experience to go through with kids, because it just sometimes changing the environment and getting them into a place where they're actually seeing those things you've been talking about in your classroom, as would be the case in Springfield and DC. And again, the outdoor ed component is, it's different, but it's similar in the fact that you can talk about how these kids have changed just in one day. So it can be very meaningful that way.
And Joanne, has your work involved looking at all these field trips, or is that something that's planned that we still need to
Not
do?
yet.
So it is some, because I think that would be, fine with me, and I think, I see value in lots of those. There are a couple that people kind of say, I don't know, and I just would like us to feel confident that we're on target.
And I also think it's helpful to the teachers to have a review of that too, so when they are with the
Right.
kids, they remember, part of this is the following, so balance is always a big thing with me, so I want to make sure that we stay balanced
And thank you for sharing that, Joanne, because that's a huge piece, and I think that's, Nate, I need to commend you, as I joke with Nate about the ski trip, but I will share with you, in talking to other kids, to be able to have a principal with that connection to kids, most kids don't have. And I do think those relationships, when a child then at the middle school doesn't make a good decision and goes in and talks to Mr. Blackmer, I think it's a whole different ballgame. So the idea of balance and review and criteria that we use for review is very important. So thank you for bringing that up. But I want to thank you for participating in all these events, because I've been a principal, I wouldn't have participated in all of them.
The students getting the chance to ride the roller coaster with the teacher is a big deal. Believe it or not, and it goes a long way in what happens in the classroom, It sounds minor, but it's.
Luckily, I enjoy roller coasters.
Nate enjoys roller coasters.
I think Nate's leaving out the part that he actually wears the camera on his head too when he rides it, so. And I want to thank you both. I don't think any of us here intended to indict our field trips. We just wanted to make sure that, particularly in one where we're spending 3 days of classroom time doing it, that while we're team building, that we're also really going along with the curriculum that we want to. I think we can mix both academics and fun and team building, and I think that's what we all want to be sure that we're doing on all of them.
I just want to add a quick thought. I think, I personally am actually a big fan of these 3 trips, and my kids, my younger son saw my older son go through them and really look forward to all of them, and they've really enjoyed them a lot. And we don't want to tread on that fine line between jumping off the balcony onto the dance floor and getting into the curricular details. That's your job. But I think from a kind of a public relations perspective, what would be an interesting perhaps thing to consider was, in the forms that we send home to parents, is that we could perhaps do a little bit more to explain the curricular tie-in, whatever it is that you guys agree on and recommend to the board, and we eventually adopt, that would make that stand out a little bit more. That might help it make more sense to some people who are kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, it's a good idea, and it might encourage people who are sort of on the fence about asking for help. They might think, okay, this has got this curriculum tie-in, I really shouldn't do this for my
I think
child.
those are some of the things that make Lake Bluff and Lake Bluff schools really special, those kinds of trips. Not every kid gets that kind of chance, and these kids are gonna walk away from that remembering these things for the rest of their lives. So I know we sometimes wonder about how it fits, but I think it fits with the big community, and it's a very special community, and I think that is part of what makes it special, is those unique opportunities for kids, so.
I do too.
She said she thinks the communication piece is important. And I agree. And very good questions. I appreciate you asking them.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Nate.
All right. Are we moving on to compensation for non-certified staff for 2013-14?
Yes. We've talked about this briefly on a couple different occasions, but never had the actual discussion. It is this time of the year that we talk about percentage increase for compensation for non-certified staff. Jane has prepared the cost of that for increases of 2.5, 2.75, 3.0, and 3.25. And so I wondered if there was any discussion, and my recommendation, as I've shared with you before, is 3%, because that's in alignment with what everybody else is getting, but certainly if you want to discuss that, we can discuss, and I left the motion open for Mary Jane to insert the percentage number in the blank.
Questions or discussion? So Jean's recommendation is 3.0. That is in line with what everybody else has gotten this year. So does anybody have any?
I mean, generally, we feel like our non-certified staff compensation is in line with what else is going on in the community, then, yeah, it's fine.
Anything else? Okay. Sounds like we'll be inserting 3.0.
Sounds good.
Great. All right, we'll move on to reports.
All right, it looks like Kate Amaral or Ann Stewart are both.
For the PTO report.
The Kate and Ann Show.
Okay, as we're coming to the end of the year, April and May are obviously busy times. April 16th, Matt Wilhelm came to LBES to present bicycle tricks and talk about bike safety. And this year he also included an anti-bullying message. That's something new in his presentation. May 9th and 10th are very important. Tie Cells is coming to LBMS, and the PTO and LEAD have sponsored Tie Cells coming. He's making a presentation to the parents of Lake Bluff, Knollwood, and Lake Forest. He's going to be talking about making connections that count and making good choices. This coincides with Depression Awareness Week. The LBMS staff has planned many activities throughout the week to emphasize their theme, One Life, Live Well. May 9th is also the week of Teacher Appreciation Week. So the PTO and District 65 administration are planning things for each day of the week to let our teachers know how much we appreciate them. April 25th is the annual Mother-Daughter Night for 5th grade girls. This is an evening that expands on the JFK talks held earlier in the year at LBES. Time Travelers is May 7th. This is a program for 2nd graders, and they are learning about Illinois and the history of Lake Bluff. So the students take a historic walking tour of Lake Bluff, and the parents volunteer to act out moments from history. On Friday, May 17th, while the 6th graders are in Springfield, the 8th graders are in Washington, D.C., the 7th graders are going to be having a softball game at Artesian Park from 3:30 to 5:30. And on May 22nd and 23rd will be the LBES Book Fair, Scholastic Book Fair. We are very eager to get books into the hands of kids for the summer reading program, and the PTO is working with both the LBES and LBMS staff to put together the summer reading program. Yearbooks are in the works. LBES, it's already off to the printers. LBMS will be complete shortly. They are going to be putting in an insert that highlights the spring sports, musical, and the spring trips to Springfield and DC. And LBMS PTO graduation planning is going along very smoothly. The graduation will be held on June 5th. And at our meetings in May, we will be voting on the 2013-2014 budgets. So the LBMS PTO meets on May 8th at 10 a.m., LBES May 14th at 1:30 p.m., and the district PTO will be May 15th at 9:30, held at the Public Safety Building. That's a report. Anyone is welcome to come to any of those meetings.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
I think we have our elementary school interim principal report.
I was sort of hoping Nate would go first. Coming from a district of 20 schools, 2 of which were high school, they never wanted all of us to speak on the same evening, so this is a new experience for me. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sophie and the board for the opportunity of coming to Lake Bluff and allowing me the opportunity to be a part of your community. Not only am I going to be serving as your interim principal for the next 2 years, but I am residing here for these 2 months as well, so that I don't have to commute, number one, and number two, so that I can be part of the activities that extend beyond the regular school day. And I'm looking forward to getting to know the community and parents in this way, because that's where you have your greatest opportunity to talk with them. So how have I spent my first 7 days on the job? I began with a talent show, and I have had the opportunity to see a myriad of talents from students kindergarten through 5th grade in 2 different talent shows. I had an opportunity to see many parents come to support their child, and have the kids get an opportunity to wave to mom and dad, you know, that it's cool, I know what I'm doing, I promise I won't make a fool out of you. But they did a really lovely job, and that was coordinated and handled by the PTO. They did a phenomenal job. I was very, very impressed by the way it all seemed to flow, and that was all in my first 4 hours on the job. The following day, we had a PTO assembly, which was mentioned previously, with Matt Wilhelm, who I have seen perform in my past life as a principal. And it's nice to see how he has stepped up his program and has incorporated things in terms of self-esteem and, you know, preventing bullying and things of that nature into his program. So, and the kids thought it was really cool, you know, especially because he had been on America's Got Talent. I've been actively involved in these last couple of days with the makeups of COGAT testing. We have begun MAP testing, which I seem to be a pro at. My last 2 jobs, I got MAP testing as part of my assignment. So I feel like there's something that I can run with from the first moment I begin. And we're starting STAMPS testing, which I know has something to do with foreign language, but I'll learn about that when it gets closer to the day that I have to start to implement it. I would like to say 2 things relative to middle school. I'm going to kind of go back to what you were just talking about. I'm a former social studies teacher, and I have gone to Washington, D.C., and I will tell you that from the perspective of somebody who has taught the curriculum and who has then gone with the students and been a part of it, there are 3 experiences that you can have with children as an educator that bonds you together. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, the Vietnam Wall, and the Smithsonian. And you walk away from those experiences, and the relationship that you have with those kids is forged for a long time. And many of those kids that I didn't necessarily feel that I was connecting to in my classroom, we were able to connect through the conversations that we had as we discussed the activities. Now, I was there with a select group of students whose parents could afford it. The opportunity for more kids to be a part of that, I can't tell you how impressed I am that that opportunity is there for students, because from my perspective, history is becoming a lost part of our curriculum, and I believe more than at any other time in our history, we need our children to appreciate our past in order to forge ahead into their future. So I share that with you. The other piece is on Friday, I had an opportunity to attend the musical. I've worked in 3 middle schools. I've been an administrator of 1, and I have not seen a program on a par with the program of Cinderella that I saw the dress rehearsal of on Friday. And so, Nate, to you and your staff, kudos. It was an outstanding program, and I'm glad Nate wasn't performing. I don't think he could have done the dance routine. But it was an outstanding program, and congratulations to the community for offering children the opportunity to perform and to excel in the fine arts. Finally, last evening we had the Eco Club Earth Day at our school. The teachers who prepared it were not sure what kind of a turnout they would have. We had an outstanding turnout, and the kids who participated in it were having a wonderful time explaining recycling and some of the different projects, selling things that were environmentally appropriate. And so it was a great evening and a great opportunity for parents to come into the school and see what their children are learning through some of the programs. And this Saturday, we have the art show from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. I just know I'm going to be at an art show on Saturday. Eventually, I will know more about it. Maybe I can share that next week. Lots of opportunities to meet parents in these first few days. I will do my best to move Lake Bluff Elementary School forward. And thank you again for the opportunity of being a part of your community.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Uplifting.
Now we have the LBMS Principals Report.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Paul. It'd be hard to start my report without mentioning the musical. We performed that musical on Friday night and again on Saturday at 2 o'clock. And it was outstanding. Our students did an incredible job. We had over 60 cast and crew members working the light and sound tables, doing hair and makeup, the running crew that you didn't see, but you saw their handiwork from switching from scene to scene, set design. It just is a really neat thing to see how many kids get involved with the musical that you never even see on stage during the performances. But you can't leave out the 71 students who were in fact on stage and doing the performing. Really, really well prepared. It's always a rewarding experience after that last performance on Saturday to see how proud of themselves the kids are, but also how sad they can be a little bit about the fact that it's over, because they have put so much hard work into it. I certainly want to mention the staff who were involved: Adrian Olmstead, Ann C., Allison Fink, Janet Engel, Julian, Daryl Beasy, Angela Ragna, Liz Schutz, Doreen Buxa, Heidi Bailey. Probably the most cohesive group of teachers working on a musical that I've ever worked with, and I think the product and the benefit to our kids was one that you can't deny. I also want to thank our countless hammer-wielding, sewing needle-carrying, baked good toting community members who help us all along the way and support us with their talents. And trust me, there is talent involved in the last minute costume repair and set construction, and there was some pretty incredible carrot cake at the intermission as well. So I wanted to make sure to mention them, and to also thank the PTO who added to our sound equipment, or helped us with purchasing some new sound equipment that performed really, really well. We had a lot of, you could hear everyone performing, and that was a great help. Also wanted to mention...
Nate, can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, yes.
How many total kids do you think were involved, including you said 71 on stage, but if you included all the behind-the-scenes kids?
Yeah,
what do you
we're
think the
over
total-
about 130. Yeah, about 130 in one
nearly
way,
half
one way or
your
another.
school is-
If you count the parking crew, I may have left them out, so maybe 134.
Nearly half the school, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what, school
Yeah, so when we
340
perform,
something?
so when we perform during the dress rehearsal for the students, there's actually more kids on stage and behind stage than there are sometimes out in watching. But we supplement that with the 4th and 5th graders who are able to come over and see the performance too, which was nice. It was nice to welcome them to the building. Any other questions about the musical? Okay. I did also want to mention, it was a little bit of a rocky start to school last Thursday. I think probably a rocky start for most anyone trying to get to work on that day of closed roads and flooded streets. But I really was impressed by the way that our staff was able to fill in for those who are coming from great distances, not able to get there on time. We were able to start the day on time, start kids in classes on time by reallocating some of our staff, and I think everybody was there by shortly after 9 o'clock. So it was a really smooth day, at least at the middle school, and I think it was also at the elementary school. We spoke about that earlier. So wanted to just make sure to mention that we, despite the difficult circumstances, got off to a good start that day. Had the opportunity to go to a 3-day workshop last week called Capturing Kids' Hearts. I was there with teachers from the middle school, also teachers from the elementary school, and teachers from both District 115 and 67. It was something that I think I'm speaking for the teachers when I say we found great value in, and certainly something that we'll be looking more closely at in terms of how we could incorporate what we learned, but perhaps also expand some of that training to some other staff. It was all about learning to connect with kids, develop strong relationships with kids that help us to also continue on and deliver really quality instruction. So I wanted to thank Dr. Wirtz for helping me to get there with the teachers those days. Something that we're excited about in the fine arts that's coming up on May 3rd is a raku workshop. If you're not familiar with raku, it's a way of a technique for, it's a ceramic technique for glazing the art pieces that the kids have been working on over the past few weeks. It requires going outside, so Janet Engel-Julian has organized this workshop outside and has a consultant who's coming in, and it'll be fairly spectacular. The piece goes into a large garbage can with all kinds of different hot materials that the kids will get to pick, and you don't always know how it will turn out, and so that's a really fun experience when they pull that piece of work out and it's all of a sudden very colorful and looks very different. So that's something we have to look forward to. That'll be part of our, that'll be conducted outside, because there is there's fire involved, and so we're looking forward to that.
Plain and simple.
We'll be working with the Lake Bluff Fire Department to ensure that that's done safely. Okay. Coming up is the One Life Live Well week, the week of May 6th, and I know that was mentioned in the PTO report. Our students at the middle school are going to be focusing on physical health and fitness, also healthy decision-making, and stress management. And so there's going to be different activities for the students each day leading up to sort of the finale with Ty Sell's presentation to our students in the morning, and then also his presentation in the Library Media Center that same day at 12 o'clock, right? Okay, good. 12 o'clock. So any parents who are hearing, that's going to be a great opportunity for you. Wanted to make sure to mention, we have put a date on the calendar for the LBMS staff versus LBES staff basketball game. That's going to be May 10th. It's a charity fundraising opportunity. It's going to be at 5:30. The trash talking has begun, but it's all in good. We haven't won yet, but we're going to keep trying. The middle school, it's all for the kids, though. And we appreciate any students and staff who want to come out and cheer us on. It's a lot of fun, and the staff has a great time doing it. The week of May 13th is a very big one at LBMS, and I wanted to make sure to mention a change in the calendar that resulted from the move for the DC trip to this week. So our band concert, which was originally scheduled for Wednesday, May 15th, has been moved to Monday, May 13th. And so we'll have our band concert on Monday, May 13th at 7 o'clock. The choral concert will be the following night, Tuesday, May 14th at 7 o'clock. And that's to allow us the opportunity to have students get home early and get good rest so that they can be ready to leave for DC early on Thursday morning, May 16th. May 17th is the day that the 6th grade students will be departing for Springfield. I'll be in DC with the 8th graders, and Dr. Sophie will be traveling with the 6th graders to Springfield.
Driving behind them.
Pardon me, yes, driving behind them.
Traveling with.
Traveling with,
Just in case.
yeah.
I will be in my car immediately following the bus.
The 8th grade project citizen hearings, which I mentioned in my board report last month, went very, very well. And the only thing about that was we realized because we didn't have the regional competition, parents didn't have the opportunity to see all of the hard work that our students had put into that project. And so we're going to have the Project Citizen Community Showcase on May 21st at 7 o'clock. And so sort of an open house and an opportunity to come see what the students have done. All of their projects will be on display in the gym that evening. And then, finally, the 8th grade promotion or graduation ceremony is on the calendar for June 5th at 7 o'clock. Looking forward to congratulating all of our students on the completion of their middle school years and hopefully sending them off to the high school for a successful experience there. So that'll be June 5th at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My report will be very short. As you know, it takes a village to raise students, and so what you've heard tonight is all the different reports about students, and I just want to personally thank the PTO who supports everything we do, our alliance. I've met with both of them on a regular basis. I want to ditto what Nate said last week about our staff. I have just found them to be very helpful and caring of each other as different things have come up this year. And that's really rewarding to see as a superintendent. And finally, I want to thank this board for, number one, bringing me here. It's been a almost great year. It's not quite over yet. And in particular, as we move further in the agenda, I want to thank the four of you who have put in years of service to this district and to the kids. And I want to thank you personally for your years of service. So you've made a big difference in kids' lives. And when we see some of our Lake Bluff kids as president or an international ambassador or an international doctor, you know that you can really say that I had a part in that at some point. So you need to know from me and from the rest of the district, thank you. And that's my report.
Well, I guess it's time for mine. And at the risk of being repetitious, which you know I don't mind doing at all, I want to say a few words also about our musical last weekend. It was the third musical that I've had a chance to be a pretty big part of, having had middle school students this last 3 years. And I just want to say that production shows what a first cabin district we are. To the onstage talent, and there was some incredible student talent, obviously there, 71 of them showed how talented they are. To the faculty that was involved directly, and Mr. Blackmer has named them, but I think that they deserve a second chance at hearing who these faculty are who've spent so much time and so much commitment and so much dedication to show how our students can really shine. So Allison Fink, Adrian Olmstead, Ann Spikovic, that's Miss C, Daryl Beasy, Janet Engel-Julian, Dan Williams, Angela Ragna, Liz Schutz, Doreen Buxa, Heidi Bailey. Thank you to all of those for the hours they spent with our kids, and it really showed on stage Friday and Saturday. To Mr. Blackmer for your administrative and your technical skills. I know you fill in whenever anything needs doing, so thank you. And to the entire middle school staff who support and encourage our students in so many ways in those months, yes, months leading up to that production. To the students who constructed and painted the sets, as Mr. Blackmer talked about, and then kept them moving throughout the performances, who created the programs, ran the sound and lights, did hair and makeup, parked cars, and every other task associated with those productions. To the many parents and grandparents who volunteered their time behind the scenes to make carrot cake and sew costumes and pound in nails on our sets. To the parents and the friends and the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the neighbors who took time to come and watch the shows. On behalf of the board, I would like to say hats off and thank you. And to those not present last weekend, I'd say plan to attend a future student performance. You'll be highly impressed. This production was just one example of how much this community has to be proud of in our Lake Bluff schools. So thank you all again. And that's my report. All right, new business. Okay, so we will move on to action. For starters, we will be pulling items B and G from the approval votes this evening because our legal counsel has recommended a different type of contract for these positions. We will take action on those items next week at the April 30th meeting. And for now, I believe we're going to take action on the other items. When we get to the items about field trips, we can discuss if we're taking action on those tonight or not. So the first item for action is personnel. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the personnel recommendations as per the attachment?
So moved. Second.
Okay, discussion? I believe we have just one item, personnel, which is retirement, correct? All right. Any discussion or questions? All right. Al, can we have a roll call?
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes?
Terry Carney?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes. Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Leanne Charlo?
Yes.
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So item B, we are not going to take action on tonight. C is the approval for employment of our assistant principal at Lake Bluff Elementary School. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the employment of Tracy Rorick as assistant principal at LBES at $82,000 per year for the 2013-2014 school year?
So moved.
Discussion? I would only make the comment that welcome aboard in your new position, Tracy. But I can't say that till after we take the vote, so. But I'll say it again in just a moment. Any other questions or comments? Al, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes?
Terry Carney.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse. Yes.
Okay, now my comment stands. All right. Next item is approval of the employment of Director of Special Services and Curriculum. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the employment of Director of Special Services / Curriculum at $125,000 per year for the 2013-14 school year?
So moved.
Second.
He was louder.
Questions or discussion? Comments? Al, can we have a roll call?
Yeah. Terry Carney.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes.
Okay. Approval of administrative contract for Nathan Blackmer as principal at LBMS for the 2013-14 school year. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the administrative contract for Nathan Blackmer as principal of LBMS for the 2013-14 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Al, can we have a roll call?
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes. Terry Carney.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes?
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Great. So I should say thank you, Nate, for staying on, and I forgot to say after the last motion to thank you to Kevin.
Yes. Welcome.
Exactly. Well, holy cow, we got all this to do right now, and I'm just trying to keep track of where we are. Now, F, approval of non-certified compensation for the 2013-14 school year. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves a 3% increase in salary compensation for the non-certified staff for the 2013-14 school year?
So move.
Second.
Questions, discussion? Al, can we have a roll call?
Terry Carney.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes. Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you. And G, we are not taking action on tonight. H, approval of LBMS sixth grade trip to Springfield, Illinois for the 2013-14 school year. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the LBMS sixth grade trip to Springfield for the 2013-14 school year?
Second.
Okay. Al, can we have, comments, question, discussion? Anything further?
Ready?
Okay, Al.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Terry Carney.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes.
Okay. Approval of the LBMS seventh grade trip to Camp Edwards, East Troy, Wisconsin for the 2013-14 school year. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the LBMS seventh grade trip to Camp Edwards, East Troy, Wisconsin for the 2013-14 school year?
So move.
Second.
Comments or discussion?
I'd just like to note that we are approving the seventh grade trip to Camp Edwards per the motion, and I would like continued review of what we do on the off days when the kids are not at Camp Edwards. I think that there's room for improvement there and a real opportunity. So not to get into the dance floor, but I note that we're approving the field trip, the day-and-a-half field trip, and just like to encourage administration to look for look to that day and a half as a real opportunity to add some real value.
So expecting a little clarification on what will be used for the rest of the time.
Right.
Sound all right?
And encouraged to improve upon it.
Great, thank you, Susan. Al, can we have roll call?
Terry Carney.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes.
Okay. Approval of the LBMS eighth grade trip to Washington DC for the 2013-14 school year. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the LBMS eighth grade trip to Washington DC for the 2013-14 school year?
Second.
Questions, comments, discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Terry Carney.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes. Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes. Okay. Approval of the amended 2012-13 school calendar. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the amended 2012-13 school calendar to reflect a snow day on March 5th, 2013, and now makes the last day of student attendance June 7th, 2013?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? right.
Susan
Okay.
Ryder?
Yes?
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Leanne Charlo?
Yes.
Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes. Terry Carney?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes. Okay, approval of the amended 2013-14 school calendar. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the amended 2013-14 school calendar to reflect 2 additional early release days on both the first and the last day of school?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Comments? Al?
Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Leanne Charlo?
Yes.
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes?
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
Terry Carney?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes.
Great. Approval of custodial supply bid with Peterson Products. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the custodial supply bid with Peterson Products for $39,527.83 for the 2013-14 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion?
This was the result of a bid process. I see that we have the 3 bids, competing bids on this, or 4. Find the right page in the board packet here.
this was actually a sealed bid process.
It was a sealed bid process?
Sealed bid process, so advertise and open bids publicly at a specific date and time.
Jane, do I remember correctly from previous years that Illinois law now requires the products used in our schools to be ecological or green?
It requires us to use green products as long as it is fiscally possible. So if it doesn't make good financial sense, we don't have to follow it, but we pretty much follow green
So
products.
Peterson's, are they specific in the products in their bids?
When there's a list, the state gives us actually a list of acceptable green products.
Okay.
So these are very, if not exactly similar to what we're using, so we follow green products. There's one area that we do not, because it literally costs us $20,000 more per year to use the green product. And it's an area that you want to be really, really clean. So,
For the tiles to look good.
You think about that.
Well, we don't have a kitchen.
no, we don't have a kitchen. So, but yeah, we do follow the Green Cleaning Act.
And the,
And this is the first year that we've bid custodial supplies.
Okay.
So, you've not done this in the past, but it's just the right thing to do, and it's not an easy product to bid because not everybody's case has the same number of bottles, and so we have to get really nitty-gritty to make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
refresh my memory again, the dollar amount that you have to have bid contracts, is it everything over 50, expected over 50,000? or-
25,000 if it's a construction project, 50,000.
So how does the 39,000 compare to what we've
We're
paid historically?
going to save somewhere $10,000 to $15,000.
And as a former estimator, I always say this, but I'd love to see numbers as tight as this. You know, a spread of from 47,000 down to 39,000, middle bid in the $41,000 range. That means that they're all in the
Our
same.
current supplier did not bid.
Interesting.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Al, can we have roll call?
Let's see. Leanne Charlo?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes?
Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Terry Carney?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhouse, yes.
All right. Approval for membership in the Northern Illinois Health Insurance Program. Could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves the district's membership in the Northern Illinois Health Insurance Program, commonly known as NIHIP, effective July 1st, 2013?
Second?
Questions or discussion?
NIHIP board voted to allow us in on April 11th, so this is just kind of the final step to get in. It's a great move for the district, for the staff, and we're very excited to be a member of the NIHIP Health Insurance Cooperative.
Oh, so they're commonly known as NIHIP, not NIHIP? Okay.
Can you refresh your memory why co-ops are a good thing for us?
Gonna be
Well, we
live
are
to
such a small district that we only insure approximately 125 lives. So our rates can be very volatile from year to year, depending on our experience. So being a part of a very large cooperative, it kind of dilutes the experiences. So we benefit from being a member with a much larger group.
30 schools, right? are in the
30 school districts.
So are all of the plans the same for those 30, or is there flexibility within
There is
that?
some flexibility. We can actually, they offer a variety of plans, and we can select our plan from those options. And we actually had an insurance committee meeting today to select our plan under NIHIP.
So some group
There is-
out of this, whatever it is,
Yeah.
then works with the insurance companies to obtain the plans and get the
Yeah,
bids.
so not every school district has the same plan within NIHIP, so which is nice, because it allows you to kind of find one that fits your
But still
particular
some-
district's needs.
Some strength in numbers and bargaining power.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's cool.
It's a great thing for us to be able to do.
And did I hear this afternoon that you sit on a committee, or you are part of an organization that meets regularly with NIHIP?
Since the district is a member, I will attend those meetings. I think they're about 3 times a year, and help kind of make decisions on what direction the cooperative goes, and have a vote.
An equal vote, it's not based on the size
It's
of
an
the
nope,
participant or
nope,
anything.
nope, it's an
'Cause I think
equal
we're
vote.
also among the bottom third in terms of the smallest districts of those 30, but that's a good thing to be part of that
That's
organization.
correct.
And so we're part of this co-op, if at some point it looked like maybe we would do better going on our own, are we obligated to stay?
No, but I can't imagine that, but that's a good question. We're not married to them for, the next 100 years. You always have an option to leave.
our risk.
Greatly.
Yeah.
Greatly. They've been around for many, many, many years, so.
Thank you.
The flip side of that too is they can't throw us out, right? I mean, because of our experience.
Yeah, nice. Other questions or comments? Okay, can we have roll call?
Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Leanne Charlo? Yes. Mark Berry?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes?
Al Pfeifhouse, yes. Terry Carney?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes. Okay. Acknowledgement of service of retiring board members.
You have to go up there.
All right, so am I gonna,
Jerry has to go with
are we gonna read these resolutions separately?
Why don't you read this thing?
Or you can just read one and then call them up, that's up to you. Actually, they're all different, so I think you probably should read them all. Just my advice.
Just read it. Okay. A resolution honoring the service of the Board of Education member Mary Jane Brady. Whereas Mary Jane Brady has served the community of Lake Bluff since 2008 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time she served as the board president and vice president, as well as member of the Alliance for Excellence North Suburban Special Education District, Green Team 65, Personnel Committee, Tri-Board Advisory, Curriculum Committee, Illinois Association of School Boards, and whereas through her leadership, the Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65, and whereas Mary Jane Brady has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which she has been involved. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65, County of Lake, and State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 thereby recognizes Mary Jane Brady for her many significant contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff, and acknowledges with great regret her completion of her term as a member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education, dated the 23rd day of April 2013 at Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois, Board of Education 65. Congratulations, Mary Jane.
Thank
It's been a pleasure serving you.
Thank you.
It's almost the right time to do it.
So Terry, how about you just stay here?
Just turn it around.
This is a resolution honoring the service of Board of Education member Terry Carney. Whereas Terry Carney has served the community of Lake Bluff since 2007 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time he served as board secretary and vice president, as well as a member of the Finance and Facilities Committee, Board Council Operations, Joint Shared Services, Insurance Committee, Illinois Association of School Boards, and whereas through his leadership, the Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65, And whereas Terry Carney has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which he has been involved, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65, County of Lake, and State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 hereby recognizes Terry Carney for his many significant contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff and acknowledges with great regret his completion of term as a member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education, dated this 23rd day of April 2013 at Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois, and it's signed by the Board of Education. Thank you, Terry. And Al? This is a resolution honoring the service of Board of Education member Al Fivehouse. Whereas Al Fivehouse has served the community of Lake Bluff since 2005 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time he served as board secretary, as well as a member of the Technology Committee, Curriculum Committee, Tri-Board Advisory, Joint Shared Services, Communications Committee, Social Committee, Illinois Association of School Boards.
Really?
And whereas through his leadership, the Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65, and whereas Al Fivehouse has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which he has been involved, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65, County of Lake, and State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 hereby recognizes Al Fivehouse for his many significant contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff and acknowledges with great regret his completion of term as member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education, dated this 23rd day of April 2013 at Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois, and it's signed by the Board of Education. Thank you, Al. And Eric Wagner. A resolution honoring the service of Board of Education member Eric Wagner. Whereas Eric Wagner has served the community of Lake Bluff since 2009 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time he served as member of the Communications Committee, Green Team 65, Social Committee, Technology Committee, Tri-Board Advisory, Illinois Association of School Boards, and whereas through his leadership, the Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65. And whereas Eric Wagner has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which he has been involved, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65, County of Lake, and State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 hereby recognizes Eric Wagner for his many significant contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff and acknowledges with great regret his completion of term as a member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education, dated this 23rd day of April 2013 at Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois, and it's signed by the Board of Education. Thank you, Eric. And I would just finish by saying thank you to all of you. It's been a pleasure to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still have to take the motion.
Yeah.
Good motion, right?
So, that all being said, could I have a motion that the Board of Education approves a resolution commending Mary Jane Brady, Al Fivehouse, Terry Carney, and Eric Wagner for the years of service to the children and community of Lake Bluff School District 65?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Okay. And we have our consent agenda. Every month, the board can choose to place terms that are either recurring, such as the approval of previous minutes, annual responsibilities, such as the appointment of a school treasurer for the next year, or items of a regulatory nature that must be by law approved by the board. These items can be combined into one motion and passed together as part of a consent agenda. The board regularly screens its consent agenda each month and removes motions that from it that in the board's judgment might otherwise require discussion or public comment. This evening, the items on the consent agenda are Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from March 12th, 2013, regular meeting minutes, March 19th, 2013, closed session meeting minutes A for March 12th, 2013, closed session meeting minutes B for March 12th, 2013, closed session meeting minutes for March 19th, 2013, closed session meeting minutes A for March 21st, 2013, closed session meeting minutes B for March 21st, 2013, special meeting minutes for March 21st, 2013, special meeting minutes for April 4th, 2013, special meeting minutes for April 11th, 2013, application for institute approval days, destruction of closed session tapes for August 23rd, 2011, August 26th, 2011, August 30th, 2011, September 13th, 2011, P-card report, bills payable, treasurer's report, and activity reports. Could I have a motion that we approve those items on the consent agenda?
Second.
Any comments or questions or discussion?
We've been busy.
Al, could we have a roll call?
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Eric Wagoner.
Yes.
Al Pfeifhaus. Yes. Terry Carney.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes. Okay. The next item is information.
I don't have any.
I think we've provided all the information we have, correct?
I couldn't get anything more in the packet.
And how about old business? All right. Then could I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.